All right, I guess that's a disclaimer there.
I guess so. I've never seen that before.
Me neither. Maybe Zoom is coming up with
That's
some new shit. I guess people are doing
updated.
some illegal recording behind the scenes, some
You
shit going
can't
on.
see the red blinking light up in the corner of for some reason. Like that's the weird. Yeah, that was strange.
That was strange.
Yeah.
Well, this is official. So I wanted to welcome everyone to the Building Men podcast. My name is Dennis Moralda. Building Men is geared toward helping you become the strongest version of yourself, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and physically. I am honored today to be joined by Jamie Gruber. Jamie is a multifamily investor. He's an entrepreneur. He is a community builder. One of the most interesting men I've had the opportunity to listen to on different podcasts. I'm really excited. I just met him about 10 minutes ago, and I'm excited to get to know him a little deeper over the next hour. Jamie, welcome to the Building Men podcast, my man.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me. I love the idea of it. I love the Building Men brand. It's really cool. So it's an honor to be here.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm glad you were able to come. And listen, your voice is just. You have one of the podcasts you mentioned about wanting to be like the Bob Costas, the
Yeah.
sportscaster. I connected with that story when I was little, really young. I mean, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be an announcer. I wanted to like announce, on WPIX. I wanted to announce the Yankee games with Phil Rizzuto and Frank White. That was
100%.
my goal. So
All too late
you
for
have the
me
voice for it.
now, but yeah, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's funny. I got so into it that I became a pen pal with Bob Costas for like 3, 4 years back and forth. We would write letters and all that, but all for not the path that I was meant to pursue.
But I mean, you're taking that voice and you're gonna make millions with that voice in some way, shape, or form. I have
I
no doubt
appreciate
there.
that. Thank you. Thank you.
So I listened to a couple of the podcasts that you were on. One was on December 20th of 2019 on the Gobundance podcast.
Yeah.
And then I was able to kind of find your story when you were on Men on Purpose with Ian Lobos. And I mentioned before to you, as we were getting to know each other, that just the difference in your two interviews was really striking to me. And one thing that resonated with me in your story was you spoke about there were two specific instances in your life that you were on the road, you were driving from one location to another, you had a pretty decent, trip from one spot to another, and they were at these crossroads in your life, both of these drives, and you were listening to music and you were just kind of going inside trying to figure out what your next move was. So if you could maybe start with one of those two drives that you were going on. I'm a big fan of those like ceremonial type moments where you make some big shift in your life. So start there and kind of lead us up to how you got to one of those points.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny. You're right. As I track back, there's when I finally let myself be alone, when I finally let my mind quiet down, and these drives allow for that. They kind of force me into that. There's only so much you can do on a long 10, 15, 20-hour drive. Those are the moments that seem to lead to, transformation in my life. So the more recent one would be, so we're right now in June, almost June of 2021. Um, this would have been in February, actually late January of 2021. So 4 or 5 months ago. I was driving to Florida. My wife, kids, and I decided to go to Florida for the month of February. And I drove. I had, toys. I had all this stuff in the back. My wife and kids flew down a few days later. And my wife, thank God bless her, gave me an extra day alone down there. Like, I'll fly one extra day later, just so once you get there, you've got a moment to kind of just be. But I really didn't need it. The drive was enough. And over the course of 2 days, I'm driving from Michigan to Florida. Yeah, yeah, sure. I had a couple phone calls. I interact with some people, listen to some stuff, or whatever the case may be. But for me, it was just a matter of, okay, I'm alone. My mind is alone. And I really started to think and reflect on my life and where I am and what I want and what I've done. And at that point, just tracking back a few years prior, I had a kind of a breakthrough that the job I had, while it was financially rewarding, while it was a good job, great company, nothing wrong with it, I was so unfulfilled by it. And I started to pursue other things kind of on the side, kind of as a side hustle, like buying real estate, like building a community around real estate, and then later joining a community like Gobundance and then partnering with them to build some courses and masterminds, excuse me, that serve folks that aren't yet maybe able to qualify for the GoBundance communities. I'd done all of that. So all of that is sort of happening on the side. Then I have my family, of course, and I have my day job, which is paying the bills for the most part. But on this drive, it was just sort of like, all right, I got all these things going on. I feel full fulfillment on the side hustle stuff. Of course, I love my family, and then I've got my day job, but all of it is too much. So I gotta put something down. Ain't gonna be my family. That's kind of a given. The side hustle stuff, like to kill it at this point, just felt like, well, what do? I sell all my property? Do I get out of building these communities which make me feel completely on purpose just to make money, or is it time to kill the money? So on that drive, I really just started to kind of reflect down and get to this point of like, all right, well, what do I need? Like, if I were to just to have my home and to function. So, like, I thought this was in my brain, like my mortgage, my car, my insurance, my heat, my electric, my Wi-Fi, and my phone, right? That allows me to function, right? That's not food. That's not health insurance. That's not school tuition because we send our kids to an Actin Academy. That's not any of that stuff. It's just simply like to have my house and function in my home. And I'm like, it's $3,400 a month. Like, it's not bad. I mean, my income had been in the 350 range, so $3,400 a month was pretty reasonable, pretty marginal, I guess you could say, for that income level. So I lived fairly well below my means, and we would spend it on a bunch of other vacations and all that stuff. But the base of what I needed was only $3,400. So that was kind of thought one, as I'm, like you said, just sort of listening to music. I don't exactly remember what I was listening to on that drive. I had another drive I'll explain where I had
Yeah.
one song just
Yeah.
going over and over and over again. But that was, okay. So it's $3,400. And then I rounded it up like, all right, 4 grand. I'm sure I'm forgetting something. So 4 grand a month just to kind of have my existence. Then I got to figure out how to make more. Like, I can make 4 grand a month. I make 4 grand a month with my, with real estate. I'm taking in close enough. And then when it comes to other ways for me to like lean into the stuff that I'm doing on the side and really build it without the day job distracting me, like, man, I can build that. Plus, I got some money on the side. And, so all of that was kind of going through my head. And I got down to like halfway through Florida. I was driving to South Florida, and I had pretty much made this decision. Like, you know what? I'm walking away from my day job. I'm going to walk away from $300,000+ a year income. I'm walking away from the equity that was unvested that I hadn't vested yet, a few hundred thousand in equity. The bonuses were pretty big, all of that stuff. I'm just going to walk away from it all. And then I got a call from a guy in New England, in Boston, where I used to work with the same company. And he's like, hey, man, I just wanted to let you know, Paul died. Means nothing to you, but Paul was a 50-year-old father of two, great, great guy. He would, go skiing. He was adventurous, outdoorsy kind of guy. Like, it was basic, looked like me, just in decent health. He wasn't like Mr. Fitness of the Year, but certainly, he was a healthy, in shape, 50-year-old, nice guy. Went home one night with some heart pain or some chest pain, went to the hospital, and just never came out. Right. So he literally died at 50 years old. I'm 42. That's not that far away. And that was kind of like, as my mind was closing the gap on, okay, I'm ready to do this. I think I'm ready to do this. That just like slammed the door
Mhm.
shut. Time to go, time to walk away. You live once, you truly do. And really, it comes down to, for me, I know at 30 and 25 and other ages that are much younger than where I am right now, I didn't do certain things because I was 30 or because I was 25 or whatever, right? Like, we probably all had that. Like, oh, I can't just go do this. I mean, I'm a 30-year-old guy. I mean, whatever it is, you want to be an actor, you want to go to Hollywood. Like, well, I can't just give up, what I'm doing right now. I'm 30. I can't just go to Hollywood and become an actor. Nobody does that. You have to be 20 or 22 for that. But at 40 or 42, I look at 30, like, what are you kidding me? Like, what? 30 is childhood still, right? And 42 is childhood in some way, right? You're still so young. You have so much life to live still. Like, why wouldn't you do that at 30? So if I'm thinking that now about my 30-year-old self, what does 85-year-old Jamie say about 42-year-old Jamie, right? So you have to kind of project out, or at least I did, to the future version of me and what he would say about my circumstance today. Would he say, man, I wish you would have just played it safe, just grinded it out for another 15, 20 years. That's what you should have done. Why didn't you just do that? Or would he say, why didn't you take a shot on yourself? What could happen? Get a job if you need one, right? And maybe I will. Who knows? Go get a job. You're employable. Take a chance, take a shot, see what happens, right? Like, I wish you would have taken that shot on you. No doubt. I know, without knowing the 85-year-old version of me, that 85-year-old me would say that, not why didn't you stay safe? So those things together, that drive led to that epiphany, really. And just, I think, just generally speaking, that actually, that drive cemented. My wife and I now do quarterly solo weekends. So every quarter, we've got it scheduled out. She goes away wherever it is, like, locally, or she can take a flight if she wants, for just a 2-3 day weekend by herself in a hotel room so she can clear her head. And I do the same. In fact, the last one I did was about a mile and a half away to Hampton Inn right here. I just rented a Hampton Inn. I stayed there for a weekend and just decompressed. I read, I meditated, I just was alone and allowed my brain to process through some things that maybe I wasn't able to previously. So yeah, that's the story of me with the drives. Like that was one of two times, especially that it really hit me. So
So I'll lead up to that first drive then. So I listened on one of the podcasts. You grew up on the East Coast.
mhm.
Was it New York, in New York area you grew up?
New York and then Boston. Yeah, I grew up
Okay.
mostly in New York and then moved to Boston later. Yep.
Okay. So growing up, you also, it was kind of a transient childhood. You moved
Yes.
around to 4 or 5 different schools during that time. And one thing that I would imagine, having to quickly go into a school, I mean, over a 12-year, 13-year career in education, going through, whatever school system,
Junior high school.
you
Yeah.
have to quickly come in and try to establish yourself in a specific way. There's a lot of social cliques that exist. And myself as a previous administrator, I know how challenging that could be for a new student to come in. So what lessons did you learn in that journey in education, your own education, going from school to school, that served you in your future?
I think the biggest lesson jumping around was just simply that, building networks, who getting to know other people in an effective way is it ultimately serves you. It kind of comes down to who you know, not what you know, and that became kind of a. It's funny when you said served me. It's like I reflect back more on school on the things that shaped me. I can't say that always served me, but they end up serving you. Ah, boy, that was confusing. Let me try it this way. So so here's what I learned in school. In order to win likes and friends and all of that stuff and be left alone, not be bullied, all of that, I had to not maybe be my authentic self at all times. I had to maybe cater to others to make sure that they liked me so that I could not be
The
um, you
target.
know targeted. Exactly. um, that said, that also taught me in a weird way the value of giving first, right? Because I just sort of I would give, whatever it is. I'd help somebody with their homework, or I'd give them something that I had that, yeah, here, take it, it's yours now, or whatever. And at the time, I would say it's probably just me wanting to be liked or whatever the case may be, but it always felt good. It always felt right. So what I learned essentially in the negative initially was I've got to be liked before anything else. So, play that role. Whoever they need me to be, play that role. And that I think hurt me over the course of my life. And I'll explain that here in a minute as I quit my job. Um, but what served me on that was the idea that I am a giving individual, and it's not weakness. It's truly probably the greatest thing you can be. It's the best way to build networks and build community and get to know people, if you're doing so without it being transactional. Like, there's this book I'm reading right now. Actually, it's called Give and Take, and they categorize you as a giver, a taker, or a matcher. Somebody who says, "I'll give, but I really expect that return." Um, if you're a giver, and I truly believe that I am in most circumstances, I learned the value of that, the power of that. While yeah, it was maybe a little bit of a like a defense for me, not to be targeted, like you said. It still always felt right for me, and I learned the value of that in building relationships, most of which were fruitful. So yeah, I'll pause there for a moment, but I do, yeah. Go ahead.
It resonates with me in a level that it's almost like this chameleon persona. I went through it on my own journey in education. One of the reasons I became an educator was because in my middle school career, I was targeted. I was bullied. I made the baseball team as a sixth grade student, and three eighth graders who I was friendly with, that they lived in my neighborhood, we would play sports all the time, got cut. And they saw me as the reason why that they didn't make the team. And
Mm,
so initially it started as them, picking on me, throwing things at me on the bus, making fun of me, like kind of excluding me from different things. Then it became more physical in nature, where they would trip me, they'd push me. And then it became where I got my ass kicked. I got jumped a couple times. And I still remember thinking, I could go back to my 12-year-old self, and I remember thinking, what did I do wrong? What could I do different? How can I change to make them like me so I don't have to go through this? And that set me on this course in life where I wanted to make people happy and please people, so I wasn't the target of whatever it was. So
yeah.
I shied away from a lot of confrontational situations all the way through my adult life into, my previous marriage and my professional career. But what I started to realize was I couldn't live like that anymore. I needed to me, whoever I am, figure out that who that is first, and then show up in that way. And if people don't like that, that's on them. That is their decision whether or not they want to enjoy listening to me. And if they don't, I'm totally comfortable with that now. So that resonated with me, like trying to get to a point where people like you in a way where you can kind of hide behind a little bit where
Yeah.
you don't want to make waves and just kind of like, all right, I'll kind of like flow into the situation.
Yeah, I think the journey of personal development generally starts with kind of illumination, right? It's being aware, it's being present and aware. Like, that's what I love about tactics like meditation and other things that make you sort of force you to kind of at least have an awareness of saying, okay, let me figure out what's happening right now for me, right? Like go inside and internal and know what's happening in the moment, and even be present in the great moments, right? With my kids at certain moments, like, okay, be here right now. This is a cool moment, right? So presence and being aware is a big piece of like that personal development journey
Hmm.
that I've been on the last 4 or 5 years. And it culminated really, I mean, even in the moment that I left my job. So, again, I'm at this company 21 years. I've been in this particular location in Michigan with this particular job or I was for a little over 4 years. And on the day that I was resigning, leading up to it, it was funny. I was good. I was good. I was good. I was good. Like it just felt like I had made this decision on that drive. I spent that month in Florida, and I was good, man. I felt like I was amazed at how at peace I was with this. And my wife was fine with it. She's always supportive. She's probably overly supportive sometimes, just like, yeah, whatever, we'll figure it out, like flippantly supportive. So she, as we got closer, though, I don't know. I was going to resign on a Friday. I was going to submit my resignation on a Friday, and like Monday and Tuesday, I was cool. I was fine. I was, like if Friday's coming, I'm going to do this. Wednesday, though, like the brain started going like, "Oof, okay, you sure you're ready to do this?"
Yeah.
And I wanted a conversation with my wife, but she was just like, "Yeah, we're doing it, right? Like, so what's the big deal?" Like I needed her to go deep on this with me. She just wasn't doing it. So like Wednesday, that's way. Thursday, I'm just like kind of stewing, like, am I doing the right thing? And then finally that night we had a good chat. We talked in depth, and she just reassured me that it wasn't just her being flippant, that there was a lot of thought to this. She had faith and all of that stuff. So Friday morning, I woke up, I was cool. Like 6 a.m., I got up, or 5:30, whatever it was, and I went to the gym. And I remember being at the gym, like, I'm ready to do this, man. No big deal, right? So I come back to my home office because, in COVID, we're all working from home. And I was going to send my boss a message at 8 a.m. And I saw like she's not available at 8 a.m. And I remember thinking, like, yeah, that's okay. That's good. That's all right. Like the nerves
Yeah.
came back, like, I'll do it a little later.
Yeah.
Right. So, whatever, like 9 a.m. comes around, and 10, and right around 10, I was like, this is probably the right time, but maybe just go get something to eat quick and then come back. Like I was looking for any reason not to send a message to her. She sends a message, "Hey, I'm going to be out this afternoon." I'm like, "Oh, I got to do it now." So I type up, in like a Teams chat or a Skype chat. I type up, "Hey, just need to talk to you real quick about something." And I went to hit enter, and when I went to hit enter, my finger just stopped. Like it hovered like 6 inches over that enter key. I couldn't push the button. It was like there was something there. There was like an invisible force field holding me from hitting that enter button to send this message to say, "Hey, I just need to talk to you." It was I got like sweaty, and my hands are shaking, and I'm just standing there with like this shaky hand hovering over the return key. And I just sort of I sat back and I closed my eyes for a second. That presence, that moment of
Yeah.
like, all right, what's going on here, right? And I teach this in our courses around kind of going deep down to the root, right? You can hack away at branch or trunk issues, but you've got to get to the root of the issue. So I was like, all right, well, why? Why are you nervous about hitting this button? And it's like, okay, because you're afraid of what her judgment or what her thoughts are going to be on the other end. It's like, okay, well, why am I afraid of that judgment, right? And it's like, all right, well, because you have always wanted to please people. It's like, okay, well, why do you want to please people? And I just kept doing this, like, why? And in that moment, literally, I mean, it's ridiculous. I'm sitting there with my eyes closed and my hand hovering over an enter key while I'm asking myself these why questions, down to like 5, 6, 7 of them. And it came down to, I was bullied in fourth grade. And ever since that time, I learned that I need others to like me first. So whatever performance I need to put on, whatever part of me I need to just sort of kill in the interest of not being, like you said it exactly, tripped, full on beaten up, chased around the schoolyard, all of that. It was just like every day was it was fourth, fifth grade. Every day was and it was only because I had an accent. I moved from Long Island to upstate New York. I had this Long Island accent, which I've since have lost, probably got beaten out of me in fourth grade. And that was it. It was just like, who do you think you are kind of thing, city boy, that whole thing.
Yeah.
And And yeah, it came down to that in that moment. And I remember feeling this like cool, I don't know, like soothing feeling that came over me. And my hand is still hovering over it and my eyes open and I just bang, I hit the button, hit enter and sent it. And then the funny part of that story is after I'd sent it, like you can see when they read it, it's like she hasn't read it. So it's like 5 minutes. I'm still like
Uh,
watching this thing, like, read this. She
Come on,
hasn't
lady,
read it.
let's go.
10 minutes, right? 10 minutes go by. Finally, I text her, we get on the phone and everything's good.
Yeah.
But it was an amazing moment to your point about like what I learned in school, all those moves and everything was find, who do I need to be in this place? Who do I need to become in this new place? Like, let me feel out the area. Do I need to be sports focused? Is that what this particular school is all about? Do I need to be focused on, being a little bit more of like yeah, go out, have drinks or whatever. That's what,
Yeah.
the last school I went to, 11th, 12th grade, that's what it was about. We went to shale pits and we get drunk at 15, 16 years old. That's what you did to fit in there. So I would do that. And it wasn't me. It just never was me. And I truly don't know that it was me until I hit probably age 40 that I truly started to find my authenticity.
Isn't it amazing that you were able to go back to that time in fourth grade? You're 10 years old.
Yeah.
And that experience that you had at 10, it was pushed down so deep. But traumas that we experience, they're called adverse childhood experiences, ACEs, ACE. And it could be anything that you're experiencing between basically birth and 18 years old that has this pervasive negative impact on you. And it could be, sexual abuse, it could be bullying, it could be drug or alcoholism in the family, an incarcerated parent, divorce, a death of a family member. But what happens is the more ACEs, adverse childhood experiences you encounter, it's like 10 times more likely that kids would have health issues, that they would have academic issues in school, that they would drop out, that they would suffer from depression and suicidal ideations.
Mm-hmm.
But as children, like, you don't know how to deal with that. And that's why it's so important, in my opinion, it's so important to have educators and that community feel that they can, one, see what the baseline is. And so that's why it must have been so tough for you, because you didn't establish that moving around a lot. A lot of the teachers and adults probably didn't see your baseline, your norm, how you would show up to school on a regular basis, what you would normally wear, what you would normally eat, the kids you'd hang around with. So once it goes outside of that norm a little bit, that's when the educator really needs to hone in on what the fuck is going on here.
Yeah.
What does Jamie need? Because there's something else that I need to jump in and help you out with. Was there an adult in your life that you were able to confide in or say, hey, listen, I'm really struggling here, I don't know how to deal with this situation?
No, there really wasn't. My parents intervened at some point. I think they went and talked to the principal or whatever. But that helps and hurts, right? Like, sure, the bully got told, that you got to stop bullying. The bully got in trouble, but when the bully gets in trouble, they just find another way to bully,
Oh
right? So
yeah.
yeah, not that.
Snitches get stitches.
That's it exactly, and
Right?
that's
You're
what
a
it
rat then.
essentially
And
became.
yeah, it's so
I was
tough.
a
I
rat.
remember I didn't have anyone to talk to about it. I felt like I needed to handle it by myself. I was weak if I didn't do it. And I grew up in this patriarchal household where go and kick his ass. Go
That was
fuck
my
him up. And I'm
father's
like, well,
advice.
fucking Frankie's in eighth grade. He's 2 years older than me, and he has Vinny and Lou, and they're gonna, like, I couldn't do that. And I just remember thinking I was less of a man, quote unquote, because I didn't stand up to kids that were older that were bullying me.
Yeah, my father's advice was exactly that. Sometimes you just got to punch somebody in the nose; they'll stop, kind of thing. It's like
Yeah.
great, but that wasn't me. It's still not me. I'm not a I don't want to say I'm not like I'll have a verbal confrontation. I've learned those skills. I've learned how to, sort of matter of factly remove the emotion from it and have just a discussion that needs to be had. But I've never been that like, that physical sort of guy, like just to punch somebody, like it would it would probably be like like almost like a withdrawn punch. Like as soon as my hand felt the skin, I'd probably like pull the
It would
hand
be
back.
like holding your finger over the enter button almost. You'd be like, right?
Exactly. It never felt right to me. Like
Yeah.
I just didn't have that in me. Like some people do. They just have that physical way about them. Whether it's maybe playing, like I wouldn't play football, right? Like it always felt weird to me, like to go go start hitting each other. So yeah, but no, I didn't have that adult presence. There was nobody in school that I could go to. There was nobody, my parents were fine, but like I said, their response to that was, go let the principal know, which that's fine. I mean, that they're defending their child. They didn't do anything wrong there, but no, there was nobody that I could really turn to. So I did feel like I had to kind of figure this out. And I had those exact same feelings like, why can't I be tough like my dad? Or why can't I, punch the guy like I saw in a movie or whatever, like, why can't I be that kid? And It does. It messes with your psyche.
It's like George McFly knocking Biff out in Back to the Future.
Mhm.
Having that moment where you just, make the fist. And so back to the idea of being in school and the education, like what lessons you learned. I'm fascinated through Building Men. My journey. I explained it to you a little bit, like how Building Men started. And one thing I'm really interested in talking to, so many unbelievable men over the last, couple months is what what lessons they wish they learned in school about masculinity, or even, if you had an opportunity to go back and kind of rewrite your script, what do you wish school would have taught you about being a man that would, I don't know, we talked about using the word serve, or, something synonymous that would help you, as an adult now.
Yeah, I think there's a few things, and it actually manifests. And I have two boys now, 6 and 3 years old, and the older one is starting his education process. And there's a lot of things that he's getting from that I wish I had, and even from me and my wife that I wish I had. Um, I'll put first and foremost say, man, woman, it doesn't matter. I wish the school would focus more on financial education. It's so lacking, and that's one piece. The second piece I think is really, and this is what my son has been gifted with. My sons have been gifted with, is the parallel between masculinity and courage, and that courage is emotion, or can be emotion. In other words, um, my sons, especially, I mean, I say that my son because the older one can communicate, the younger one is not quite there yet, but has the ability, and we have the desire for him to express himself, how he's feeling in that moment. If he needs a moment, if he needs time for himself, if he needs to cry, if he needs to be vulnerable, all of those things are not really part and parcel with the upbringing I had as being a man. Being a man meant, bury it deep.
Yep.
My favorite comedian is Bill Burr. I don't know if you ever watched Bill Burr, but he's a great comedian. He talks about these topics like, guys dropping a heart attacks at 60 because they had to bury everything really
Yeah.
deep, and he's jealous of women, how they could just share everything, but he was brought up not to. So same, I was brought up to, you don't cry, I'll give you something to cry about, like, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So you don't cry, you don't express yourself, you don't bring up your emotion, you just do. It's being a man had something to do with toughness, and toughness had something to do with I guess suppressing emotion or suppressing your feelings. And my kids, my older son now, we actually took him out. We had him doing kindergarten locally in the local school, but we're like, there's just something missing to the education that he's getting and what we want him to be able to do, which is explore what he loves. He loves the solar system and he loves this and that, right? Like, how does he explore that? How does he, build on that? How does he educate himself that way? And brought him to Actin Academy, kind of a Socratic method of teaching, and using questions. And the teacher is more of a guide than teaching. It's not sit down, learn this, take that test, answer it, and you're good or you're bad. It's learn from your own, desires, learn from your own passions, and then take those and intern as you get older and go build businesses and learn from other people that are doing things in the real world. So I wish I had license, I guess, to be able to express how I was feeling, especially in that time when I was being bullied. I mean, I couldn't say. It was more like, they're wrong. There's too many of them. Like, I had to come up with reasons why I couldn't be enough of a man to fight them off, as opposed to expressing what I truly felt, which was I'm probably not good enough. That's why they're beating on me. Like, I didn't feel enough inside, and I couldn't express that. It was more about the physical fight. That's what the center of it was for me, because that's what I was taught. You're a man, you have to be physical, you have to fight, you have to do these things, you can't be emotional and all that stuff. I wish that was more present in my upbringing, in my education.
And the Acton Academy and Apogee, I recently talked to Matt, who was the founder of Apogee, and I just that whole mission. It's about the experience that the kids are having. It's not about this bullshit prescribed curriculum. And schools have been the thing that have been the most antiquated in our society for the last. They haven't really changed all that much in the last 100 years or so. They've kind of been the same. And what they're doing with Acton, I mean, I totally give you credit for having your children go through that experience, because it's something where their voices are a part of what's going on. They have that, there's a level of autonomy there that does not exist in a lot of, and I know in public education.
Yeah,
One
public
thing that I
education was built on what, the Rockefeller system, right? I mean, the Rockefellers had, they were part of the Industrial Revolution. They were teaching kids how to be factory workers, right? Which makes sense at that time, and that in that particular moment in our history, that's what the jobs were. Ring bell, sit down, stand up, start. That's the authority, that's the union leader kind of thing, right? Like that's what they were taught. But yeah, you're right, it has not evolved. I mean, I shouldn't say it hasn't. I'm sure there's some evolution, but not to the point where we are today, right? Like we're just, to not teach our kids how to be entrepreneurial, to not teach our kids how to really truly manage money, or what money really means, or any of that stuff just blows my mind. Or just not to give kids license to have interests. Like the fact that he needs to know, you know, 3x times 4y, at some point, versus maybe going out and interning on something that he absolutely loves doing, interning with Lockheed Martin on how to
right.
build rockets, if that's what he wants to do. Like that's education. We want to go to the Dominican for a few months. My wife is from there originally, so we want to go there for 2-3 months. He can, further learn. They can further learn Spanish. Like that's education, another culture. Not sitting in a classroom and getting something regurgitated to you from a textbook. So yeah, I'm with you.
My youngest is in fifth grade. She'll be in the middle school next year, and I asked her what she's excited about going to the middle school. It's a whole new experience. They're changing classes regularly. She basically said that I don't have to walk in a line from class to class anymore. That
Know
I
that?
don't,
Yeah.
and I just kind of sat back, and I was a middle school principal for years, and you kind of take it for granted that in elementary school the kids line up against the wall, they're quiet, they walk in numerical order from one place to another, and they're basically put in this box and told what they're supposed to think and how they're, and then when kids step outside of the box a little bit, they're sent down to me. They're sent down to the principal's office because they voice their opinion. They express themselves in a way that maybe didn't align with what the Rockefeller system prescribed for them.
Yep. Yep. 100%. That's interesting. I forgot about the lines. Yeah. Good point.
The lines are a big deal in schools. And they would get rewarded for the quietest kid in the line.
Yeah.
And then there was also
Most
this group
compliant.
mentality, like if the class was quiet and they did their work, then the whole class would get a reward, extra recess. But if one kid talked, the whole class got the punishment for whatever it was. And we weren't teaching kids the idea of this, managing their own like self-discipline. That wasn't a part of it. The other thing that comes from school, without, like, if I were to create a school, so much of what we do, and I'm sure what you do as well, I listened to a couple of the podcasts that you were a guest on. You talked about one of the things that you're skilled at is connecting people together and being able to work in a team. And IQ is not the greatest indicator of future success. It's how you deal in social situations,
Yeah.
especially when there's something challenging that comes up, that you need to be able to navigate emotions and different social situations. And your role in what you're doing is you're trying to bring people together and help people to connect with one another as well.
Yep. 100%. A connector. It's funny. I didn't think of a connector as like a skill, as, necessarily like, yeah, hey, look, if somebody I know in my network has X, and somebody over here that I just met, or in my other network or whatever, needs X, well, that seems like a simple sort of bring them together thing. But I guess it's something that many people don't think of, or not everybody just thinks of in that regard. Like, oh, how do I best serve this person by bringing them the people in their life that they need? I was at a conference, at an event, and one of the guys there, a wildly successful guy, I was sharing this with them about connector. And, this is right around the time I'm thinking of leaving my job. And, well, what are your skills? Well, this is kind of what I think my gift is this ability to connect people that need one another. He's like, did you know that one of the 4 top traits of billionaires is being a connector? Had no idea. I did not know that. I don't know what the other 3 are, but that was one of them. That's all I needed to hear. So not that I'm going to be a billionaire, but the idea is that there's a lot of value in bringing people together that need one another for whatever it may be. Just before this call, we were talking about your mission with building men. There's somebody in my network doing something very similar, and I wanted to make sure I connected him to
Yep.
you, just because I think that he would benefit obviously from getting his message out there. You would benefit from maybe being around somebody that has a very, very similar message to the world, a very, very similar mission in life. So I value the idea of bringing people together that can leverage one another, that can build community with one another to achieve whatever it is they're trying to. And for me, I don't know, like I get joy from doing that. Honestly, it just I enjoy doing it, but it also, sometimes it manifests itself in like, well, okay, because of the connection you brought together, then you get a piece of the equity in the deal that you just made happen, or something like that.
Right.
So there's true value there. But more than anything, just bringing people together and helping them sort of integrate, what one has and complete what the other half that the other has been something that I've always enjoyed doing, and I'm leaning into more and more now post W2 life.
Your one thing that you just said that I need to get out there. There's a poem called "The Bridge Builder" by Will Allen Dromgoole. I'll put it into the podcast notes, and I'll send you an email of it. And basically, the poem is about an old man comes. He's at the twilight of his life, and he comes to this kind of treacherous river in front of him. There's a chasm in front of him, and he needs to cross it. And what he decides to do is he's going to build a bridge to span the tide. And so he understands like this is it for him. And so he's building this bridge, and there's somebody comes along and they're like, "You're a fool, old man. You're gonna waste your time building this bridge at the twilight of your life. Go out and live. What are you wasting your time for?" And he says, "I'm not building this bridge for me. Along is coming some people in the future that will need to pass this. I'm building it for them," basically is the premise of this. And as you're talking, I mean, if I were going to reintroduce you at the start of the podcast, I would add in that you're a bridge builder. You're, maybe not in the physical sense, but you are
Oh,
a
no.
connector of people. You are bridging a gap that exists. You're helping people kind of walk over that bridge to meet each other.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, with the Emerge and Ascend program that I run with Gobundance, just for those that aren't familiar, Gobundance requires a million plus net worth. So I'm privileged to be part of that community, and I built, along with a few other folks, a course and a mastermind for those that aren't yet at that millionaire status. But the most fun part of that is the folks that are in that, like I want to be a millionaire one day, and I'm trying to kind of get there. The most fun part is when one guy says, "Hey, my goal is to acquire a dental practice," and I could say, "You know what? In GoBundance, there's one guy that's just acquired five. Let me put you two together." Or, "Hey, I just pivoted to software sales. Well, hey, I know three guys that are in software sales at a high level. Let me connect you with them, so this way you can get some skills," or whatever the case may be. I agree. Yeah, that's building something for them for the future. That's building something that they can hopefully launch from, the bridge between them for sure. Yeah, I get a lot of joy from it.
So talk to us a little bit about. I'll give you a chance to kind of picture those two programs. It's Elevate and Ascend on the way up to
Plug
the
time.
GoBundance.
Sure. Emerge. Yeah, it's Emerge and Ascend. So
Emerge.
Emerge is a 12-week course, around goal setting, and it really has three specific objectives. The first is to create transformation, and how we do that is we give you all the tools that you need over the 12 weeks. There's a content drop every week, but early on in the course, you'll set a goal for the course, a goal that you want to achieve by the end of the 12 weeks, and you'll get the support of the community within that, as well as the support of the tools and the curriculum that you get. But the transformation is that whatever goal you set and seek to achieve by the end of the course, hopefully you meet it. But even if you don't, you've acquired some skills and you've met some people that help you transform to the next version of you. So that's kind of the first objective. The primary objective is for it to give you transformation. The second objective we have is for you to get connected. So to your point, so what we do every week, we bring a guy or gal with a million plus net worth, an entrepreneur, in on a Tuesday evening for what we call a millionaire case study. And all the members of Emerge can jump on that call live. And I insist on any questions being asked live. That person gets spotlighted with the guest. So this way they can be one-on-one, just like we are on this screen, and meet them, get proximity to them, ask their question, get it answered. And the folks that come and speak to the group the content ranges anywhere from sort of motivational, inspirational mindset, all the way up through very tactical. Like, this is exactly how you build wealth.
Right.
Here's the 5 steps, or whatever the case may be. So every week, our Emerge folks get that proximity, and they get that ability to connect to the GoBundance brand and the members of GoBundance. And then thirdly, I'm using Emerge as sort of a filter. And what I mean by that is we have Ascend, which is the mastermind that you can join after Emerge, but you've got to complete Emerge. And what I mean by completing Emerge is you have to complete all 12 assignments in Emerge before we'll invite you to Ascend. In Ascend, we do group coaching. Ian is actually the coach that I brought on for that. So we do group coaching. We've got a monthly call series. We just had Darren Prince on, who is an amazing human being. He's the agent for like Magic Johnson, Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, Larry Bird, Hulk Hogan, like all these legendary people. He had Evil Knievel before he passed. He's the agent for all of them. So he's very, very well connected. but he also had an opiate addiction, and he's been 13 years sober, and he took us through his story of building his business, but also the mindset shift that it took for him to not be an opiate addict at this point in his life. But we have Dr. John DeMartini coming on in a month, who talks a lot about values, how to identify your values. So we have incredible speakers in Ascend, but you have to go through Emerge to join Ascend. And then once you're in Ascend, you'll have accountability pods. You'll have a lot of stuff that'll help you drive forward, including the coaching curriculum to get to that next level. Ascend is really about 4 kind of steps. I talked about one of them earlier. And that is, one, first to illuminate whatever it is that you're working on, just sort of put it out, put light on it. Secondly is to eliminate those things that don't serve you. So your first couple of months, you're going to work on illuminating. And then after that, you're going to work on eliminating. The third step is to calibrate. So really kind of get lined up with whatever your purpose is and your missions and values are. And then lastly, the final step in this whole thing is to accelerate. So after you've calibrated, you sort of take off and roll forward. So that's what Ascend is all about. We work deep there, but you got to get through Emerge to get there. So that's
And I'm sure one of the things that you see through that is not only the clients going through the course work, but what happens is there is this community that is established where people start feeling this connection to one another, and the journey that they're going on, when they're going on it collaboratively with others that are in the same boat, that are going through the same kind of challenges, that team mentality helps strengthen everyone. There's that unified idea, and I just see the value in it. That was one of the things, as I reached out to you, I kind of did a deep dive into what you were into, and that's one thing that you're creating, community, and it's one of my philosophical ideals around education, that you need to really create community for people to learn the best that they can learn.
It's everything. And so, the course of Emerge, nothing in there is new. Like there's nothing in there that people have not heard before. It's lined up well. And, we make sure that it's structured in a way that folks get a lot of value out of it. But the pure value, the true value is nothing in the content, nothing that we created in the content. It's truly in the idea of being around the kinds of people that hold you accountable to executing on it. Right. And that are there to hear from you. Like, I say this often, most of our networks, the people that we're around, like your friends from high school or your family or whatever the case may be, you love them, you want to be around them, but they speak to you, and your conversations are more about remember when, right? Like it's more about the past version of you. Communities like Emerge and others, the idea is you're around people that see the future version of you. So they talk to you in terms of imagine when, right? So that's what I love about being in a community like that. Me being in Gobundance, that's what these guys do for me. They let me see my future version of me and lean into that now. But people in my regular life, like they get it. They're not holding me back, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, I guess it just doesn't kind of make sense to me. But remember when we did this? Remember when we did that? So I agree completely. Community is what it's all about. No curriculum, no content, no anything is really good unless you've got a filtered group of people that are like-minded that you can engage with, and that can help you get through whatever it is you're working on. So agree completely.
And that shared experience, and I'm going to use that as a kind of a cheesy segue into a shared experience that we have. On January 27th of the year 1991. So I want to say you were probably in 6th or 7th grade during that time, probably 6th grade.
6th grade, yeah.
All right. And I was elated during that time, and I want to say you were probably a little bit dejected, and it was a 47-yard field goal attempt by Scott Norwood against the Giants in Super Bowl 25.
You're a Giants fan.
I am a Giants fan. I am my Giants. I was gonna wear a Giants jersey today. I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna go there. So you're a Bills fan,
big time.
And that was, that team was superior to the Giants. They really were. I mean, between the receiving core with Reed, and they had Thurman Thomas and Jim Kelly, they had Bruce Smith.
The Chiefs were better than the Buccaneers too, right? So
absolutely. Yeah. So, and they went on this. The journey that the Bills went on those 4 years. So I feel for you during that time. I mean, now you're jumping around from school to school, and you're a Bills fan, and just heartbreak year after year. But you know what? Now they're ascending. I could see what's going on with that team right now. They're absolutely ascending.
It's funny, like the 4 years in a bubble like that was sad enough, but the 20 plus years of mediocrity that followed, like I think any Bills fan, me included, would be like, give me back 4 losing Super Bowls. Like, as long, just don't let me know that they're going to lose, but give me back 4 losing Super Bowls again. Right. We would go on that run today and be happy given the mediocrity that we've had over the last 20 years. But now they're back. I think, and I hope Allen is for real,
I
and
think
this
so.
team is ready to go.
Too many JP Lossman type years as the quarterback of your team. I
I
totally get
actually made
that.
a bold prediction. It was '04. Losman was drafted number 24. I think Eli Manning was the first pick, right? Traded with Phillip Rivers, who was the fourth pick.
Yep.
And there was somebody else, Roethlisberger, pick 10.
Roethlisberger.
Pick 10 that year. I remember that year because I thought this is the year. This is the Jim Kelly like year in 1983 where he and Marino and Elway and all these other guys were drafted. And I made a prediction that Losman will be the class of that draft class. He'll be the best guy in that draft class. And, he had people over. He had one decent year, 3,000 yards passing, 20 touchdowns. He did have a year where it's like, here it is,
This
but
is it.
it fell apart shortly after.
Yeah. So I just it's one of those things. And well, now I'm in that Giants realm where it's been a couple of years of mediocrity, but I definitely feel we're definitely on the right path. But it's all about coaching. It's all
Whenever you
about the
pop into a Super Bowl, though, you win. That's the
yeah.
interesting thing, right? No matter what. Like, again, same thing. Patriot teams were better than your Giant teams
Yes.
both time.
I
Both
would
times.
say every Super Bowl the Giants won, they were not the better team going into the game.
That's true. And yeah, it's funny. And honestly, I can't say like because of the Bills losing to the Giants that like the Giants or whatever, because you beat the Patriots, who any Bills fan, any self-respecting Bills fan loathes contemptuously. You beat them twice in the
Yes.
Super Bowl.
Stop
We're
the undefeated season.
Giants, right? Yes, exactly. We're. I think most Bills fans are like NFC Giant fans. If we had to pick an NFC team, it's the
Right.
Giants. So we'll allow it.
So having said that, I mean, I just think about coaching and just the similarities between having a coach. I just coaching is everything, and so what you're
Sure.
doing, you're coaching. Most of the people in the program, is it men? Is it women? What
Yeah, it's ended up being so it's open to men and women, but
okay,
the first Ascend group ended up being all men.
okay.
So it is all men right now.
And so you see the value in that coaching. And so I'm going to pull something out of I follow along with your journey on Instagram, and you have a lot of really inspirational quotes on Instagram.
Inspirational.
I'm just going to read one or two out to you right now. That quotes that you put out, they weren't attributed to you. They were from a coach in your
Yes.
life that really helped you along your
I like how you're
journey.
doing this.
And
Yeah.
so maybe after I read the quote, you could give us a little backstory. So the first one is put yourself pat yourself on the back and say you are one bad bitch.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that quote, Jamie.
so, so you're referring to my spin instructors. So I go to a spin studio locally. It's kind of like a Soul Cycle, and uh, often there are 20, 25 people in the room, and I'm the only dude. So it started with, that the quote started with like, they don't even know I'm here. They would say comments like that, or like, yes, girls, or something like that. It was always like women centric. So that was one of them that when she said it, I'm like, I guess I'm a bad bitch. I usually put a hashtag underneath it of some sort.
Oh, they're so good. You like it's like emasculated. And the second quote that I pulled was, "You have to do it yourself. I can't turn your knob for you."
Yeah. Yep, exactly. So the what started as only dude and spin class type of quotes, like, after a while, like there's only so many times that they're gonna ignore that I'm the only dude there. They're, like, so it turned into, like, as I would hear things and being, again, a 12-year-old still mentally
Oh,
in so many ways,
absolutely.
I would hear these little, like, innuendo quotes. In fact, at one point my handle was at spinuendos because
Brilliant.
it was all this. But yeah, like, don't touch your knob. What's another one? I want you to tap it.
Yeah, you
Stuff
got to go
like,
deeper. Pull.
gotta go deeper. What's
You're
the
like,
other one?
listen,
Like,
I'm as deep as I can go.
there was
Listen,
one,
what else do
right,
you want
exactly. There
from me
was
here?
one like, I need you to get it real thick. If it's not thick enough, turn it to the right. Like that, stuff
Is
like
that how
that.
that works?
That's how apparently it works. I didn't know that, but if you turn it to the right, it'll get thicker.
Talk
But
about
yeah,
shit that they should have taught us in school, right? My
exactly.
God,
That's
we could have been.
masculinity stuff. Yeah,
That is
those
awesome.
quotes are fun. Actually, I have. So it's funny, in the pandemic, I had like sometimes they give like 3, 4, 5 quotes in a class that I jot down in like a notes app. So I've got like 50 I haven't done yet, like that are just kind of sitting
Oh
there, and
wow.
I kind of hold them in reserve. I released them through the pandemic a little bit, but I have one more from the other day that I got to put. I don't even remember what it was, but I know I wrote down 2 and I only put 1 out
Well,
there.
are
It
they
was
are they
yeah,
catching on to what you're doing now? Are they just feeding you
100%.
layups? They're not. Okay.
100%. No, they don't. So that's the thing. It's actually forced me to level up my game. So two or three of them follow me now on Instagram, and they know what I'm up to. Like, one of them, when I walked, they actually put the quote out there because I walked in. She's like, "Oh, you're Jamie, right?" Like I think I put like hashtag, menacing tone or something like that. So they know, but it's forced me to really like level up with what I hear and how I leverage it or whatever, because they know I'm in the room. I don't think they're trying to give me stuff, but and sometimes, to be honest, there's some poetic license on a few of them. Like there might be like 80% of it was said here, and then this one little extra line was like 2, 3 lines later, and it's just funnier to mash them together.
Right.
So some of them have a little poetic license, but no, yeah, they know they're on to me. They're on to me for sure.
Yeah. So when they're like, you got to go hard for an hour,
Yeah.
you're like, come on, I got 10 minutes tops.
Some of my I just can't post. Like one of it's yeah, I just they're like they'd be, edited for TV. Some of them are just too good. I don't know. Too good. I can't even think of one right now, but some of them are just ridiculous.
So the one podcast that I listened to you, you were interviewed on, you talked about one of your bucket list things was you wanted to do some stand-up comedy.
I
And so
did.
you did that. You kind of created a 5-minute set and did some stand-up comedy. Tell us a little bit about that, how that was. What kind of how did you get to the point where you're like, I'm gonna put myself out here and get up on stage and try to make people laugh? That must have been terrifying.
It's funny. Yeah. So I always had this dream. And actually, I talk about like 25 years old, like what I didn't do. That was it.
Yeah.
Like I had this goal of like, I had a cousin of mine lived in LA. He was an actor. He was on a show called Power on Stars. So I was going to make that move at 25, but at that point I was, I had a good job and I can't make that move at 25, and then 30 kind of crept up again. I can't do that. That's what I was talking about. So around 34, 35, again, kind of the beginnings of me starting to think like, there's one life. I gotta manage this the right way. I said, you know what? I've always wanted to do this. It's my New Year's resolution. I'm going to do it this year. And yeah, I wrote down some stuff. Stuff I had been thinking about, mostly related to like I'm in an interracial marriage with my wife, and just the funny part about me being just this like beaming white, like glowing white dude with this family of folks that have this beautiful, like, sun-kissed tan,
Right.
like just the dichotomy of that. I would do a bunch of jokes about that. And yeah, I wrote down 5 minutes. I found a club in Boston that let you bring 2 people and then get up on stage. And you had to sit backstage. And I think I was like 14th or 15th on the list of people to go up. And it's funny, just before my time, they bumped me one spot because this dude came in to practice. He was like a fairly well-known comedian locally, to practice the final practice for his set for Comedy Central Presents or something like that. Like that. So like all the people before me were awful. Like I was. Like they're just like they're new to comedy.
Yeah.
They're open mics and they just go out. There's like one funny thing and the rest is bad. And I'm like, all right, my turn. And then they're like, no, hey, this guy's gonna go. He's got his 5 minutes. So he goes up there and just crushes the
Oh,
room. Even at the 5 minute mark, he goes to the host, like, hey, mind if I go another five? She's like, go for it. So he
there's
kills
just a
for like
scrub back here.
another
No
five
big
minutes.
deal.
Right. And then finally I go out, and it's funny. Like I was nervous. I didn't eat all day. I didn't drink anything all day. Like it's like 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night now on like a Sunday. And I finally get up there. And the moment I was up there, it was like it all went away. I felt fine. I
Yeah.
felt perfectly comfortable being up there. And it went well. The first half of it was good, like because I there was a cadence to it. Second half of it, it was like I took a way too long to like hit the punchline, so it got a little drawn out. But it was great, and I thought, man, I could do this. The next one I did was at like a bar, and I brought my wife and a friend of mine, and I remember there was a dude playing guitar like on stage, and thinking, oh, they might be like they're doing like little intros, like little music when you
Yeah.
come up on stage or whatever. But then like quickly I realized like, well, okay, this dude's going up on stage and the guy's just playing guitar through his whole set. Everybody else there was there for open mics. There was nobody there to come watch you like the other show at a real comedy club. They were all like in their own heads. And so I go up there and the dude's like playing guitar. The microphone's broken. I'm just like trying to get through this set. No one's laughing. It was awful. And I just repeatedly did that for another 10 or 12 times before finally calling it a day. But yeah, terrifying before, but once I broke it and went up on stage, it was actually very comfortable. I don't know.
And it's one of those things where once you're able to get out of your own way and take the risk, take the leap, I'm sure that experience served you so well in other interactions that you had, because you're like, you know what? I did it. I was able to do it. I didn't die. I was able to figure it out, and
It
I'm
it
okay
it
now.
let me, yeah, it honestly let me, it was the beginnings of saying, wow, I can do more than I think I can. I can do more than I think I can. It was
Yep.
the beginning of probably the journey of personal development I've been on for the last 5, 6 years.
And it's almost like you're going into your first Major League Baseball game. You're a relief pitcher, and Joe Torre's like, you know what? We're gonna let Mariano Rivera pitch the eighth, and you're gonna come in the ninth inning to close the door. What
Exactly.
the fuck, Joe?
Exactly.
Give me a
Yep.
break here.
Exactly.
You got the greatest. So I want to kind of bring it all the way back to my initial question to you and kind of let you lead us out. In that Jerry Maguire moment where he gives in his manifest, his mission statement, and he's
Yeah.
in the car and Tom Petty's on, he's singing Free Fallin'. And that's kind of what you were doing at two different points in your life. You had that drive to Florida, and you had another drive at a later point in your life where you're like, I need to reimagine what I'm doing. Just walk us through that, that second drive that you did, and what you learned about yourself in
Yeah,
that
that
free
was
falling
what
moment.
was that? That was on my 40th birthday, so 2, 3 years ago. And I was driving back from an event, like a personal development retreat, if you will. And we went through this exercise of sort of allowing the rest of the room to reflect on you after having been with you all weekend. So, you go to these retreats, it's always like, everybody's connecting and having a great time and really bonding and getting deep. And after the 3, 4 days, at the end of it, we had this sort of emotional ceremony where we asked others to define who I am from their perspective, right? So they would use all these words. They would just say these words to you, like, you are this, you are this, you are this, you are this. And it was just maybe the way it was set up, the emotion of it. There was like music playing. It was more done like in a whisper, eyes are closed, like this whole thing. There were a few words that were said that really struck me, that I never thought of myself as. It was words like gritty, words like handsome, words like accomplished, or whatever the case may be. And on the drive back from that, it was in Montreal. I drove from Montreal back to Michigan. So it's like 15 hours or whatever it may be. Um, on the drive back, yeah, I started playing this song, Secrets by One Republic. And I don't know why I kept repeating and repeating and repeating and repeating. And I think it repeated for like 5 hours, something like that. That same song just kept going and going and going. And I was thinking about these words and reflecting on my life and thinking about, like, wow, that's how they see me. This is how I've always seen me. And at this point, I had done a lot of work with a coach. I was being coached by Ian Lobos, who you mentioned with the Building Men podcast, or I'm sorry, with the Men on Purpose podcast. Um, so I had been coaching with him. I had been in personal development. I've been really kind of trying to get down to who I am, the root of me. And between what all of those folks' impression of me was, and and me reflecting inwardly on, how do they see that, but I can't see it. All of that kind of culminated with these words. I need another story, something to get off my chest, like these words in this song, like we're just repeating, repeating, repeating. And it hit me as like, man, I'm just now finding who I am. I'm just now in this moment on this drive at 40 years old, on my 40th birthday, October 1st, understanding, who I truly am. And that is somebody that is, it's my affirmations. I'm an amazing father. I'm a devoted husband. I'm a high achiever. I'm smart. I'm driven. I'm inspiring. I'm handsome. I'm confident. I'm a millionaire. Those are my affirmations that I put out every day for myself to sort of remind myself of who I truly am and the things that make up me. Because prior to that, it was, I'm not enough. I'm stupid.
Yep.
I'm ugly. I'm not worth it. How did my wife marry me? Right? Like all of that stuff. And it's not that it's gone. Like I definitely have things that I'm trying to still improve upon with that. But I learned in that moment who I truly was. I've learned since then to deploy tactics like affirmations to kind of reaffirm who I am. And more than that, I've learned, and not unknowingly, until this Darren Prince, the guy that I mentioned, that's the agent for Magic Johnson that went through the opioid addiction. He made this point that he went through all of that because at the end of the day, he's in the room with Magic and Muhammad Ali or whatever, but he feels like that 12-year-old kid still that is, like, how am I super agent Darren Prince? I'm still this 12-year-old insecure kid. Like everyone looks at me a certain way, but I'm not that way. I learned from him that, his way of becoming confident within himself is just by adding value and giving. So that's something that I've done and not realizing that that's added a lot of value to me, and it's helped redefine who I am. So
It's
yeah,
like the Tony Robbins statement: you change your story, you change your life.
100%.
It's not that I'm not good enough. It's you basically changed your story, and that drive, that there's just something to be said about that. And some of the lyrics that I pulled from that song, the song Secrets: don't need another perfect lie, don't care if critics ever jump in line, I'm gonna give all my secrets away. And it's basically like, I'm gonna live my life, I'm gonna be the authentic me. I don't give a shit what other people think about it. I know
Right.
inside who I am, what I'm capable of, what my value is. And now you've been able to share that with so many people right now, Jamie. I truly appreciate you coming on to the Building Men podcast. Let us know how we can find you, your mission, all of the programs that you're working with right now.
Yeah, you can go to my website, jamiegruber.com. That has all of the different social media handles. Right now, I've been mostly active on Instagram. So at Jamie Gruber, at the Jamie Gruber, excuse me, on Instagram is probably the best place on social to find me right now.
So I'll put all of that into the show notes. I'll post all of this on Instagram for people to follow along. So Jamie, you are gritty. You are a handsome man. You are a bridge builder. And now I'm going to call you one of my friends. I really appreciate you being on the Building Men podcast. Thanks so much for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time on Building Men. We'll see if it's going to say stop recording now.